Welcome everybody to One Nation. So glad that you can tune in tonight. And I got some good content, good information for you tonight. But before we get into that, I want everybody to tune in, um, like, comment, share, and subscribe on the One Nation. And I'm going to give you the information down at the bottom of your screen. Um, and like I said, we have been I've been absent from you for a little while, but I started back the show. So, and here I am again on the podcast. And my name is, and for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Christian Norfleet, and this is the One Nation podcast. And for you, if you like to contact me more about this show, I got information for you down at the bottom of your screen. Uh, you can email me at one nation 2021 ent@gmail.com. Also, you can like and subscribe and comment on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And I would prefer for you to watch the YouTube channel because I'm trying to build that up. Uh, so it's One Nation ELIZE. That's One Nation ELIZE, and that's at the bottom of your screen. Also, you can watch me on Facebook and also reach out to me on Twitter. And also, I have an Instagram, which is One Nation Gives. You can reach out to me on that end as well. So you can also call me if you have any questions, 404-889-6302. And if you would like merchandise, we have shirts and sweaters, T-shirts. Um, you can contact me there, send me your size. I have a shirt on now. This is my One Nation shirt here, T-shirt. We also have hoodies for sale. So you can do cash at me at $ One Nation ELIZE 21. That's $One Nation ELIZE 21. And you know what? And last week I mentioned I was going to put Zelle on there, and I forgot. So, but please forgive me. I'll make sure I put it on next week for you. So, like I said, the information's for you at the bottom of your screen. Um, and while we're talking about the shirts and how you can get those, I want you to watch this real quick, and we'll be right back. All right, shout out to my kids and my wife who helped me make that commercial. We made that commercial earlier this year, I think during the spring while they was visiting me in Atlanta. So shout out to them for uh, helping me out with that. And like I said, if you're interested in purchasing one of these hoodies or T-shirts, please let me know. And also, if you like to sponsor, if you look, I'm always looking for people who love to sponsor or just simply donate. Once again, cash at me at One Nation. All right. Oh, wrong button. Sorry. Anyway, so glad that y'all can join in tonight. We're very excited that you're here. And like I said, we got some serious serious content to deal with today. Some history. Um, Recently, me and my wife we traveled to Natchez, Mississippi. I've never been there before. It's in Natchez, Mississippi. It was a pretty uh, thrilling experience just to once. It's always fun to go to a place you've never been before. You know, that's always exciting. And me being a traveler, I always like to travel to different places and see different things. And behind you, I don't know if you can see in my background here. This here is actually a photo, and let me adjust the camera for you so you can get a good look. This is a picture of the Mississippi River from the Natchez, Mississippi side. So that's the Mississippi River there, and across the river actually is was Vidalia, Louisiana. But later on in the show, I'm going to show you some pictures and some photos of our trip there and some of the things we have encountered. But like I said, being um, there was very exciting because I got to learn some new history. I got to learn, and actually in the South, there's a lot of history, especially African American history. And I just wish sometimes that when we talk about U.S. history, it's always we hear about the same people. We hear about the presidents, George Washington, and the Revolutionary War and Civil War, and all those things. And those that's good and everything like that. But the main part of American history that I think that they tend to leave out is the African American side. And we just seem to focus more just on the slavery part as opposed to there were some real, people, African Americans, or in my case, I'll call them Hebrews, if you will, that has contributed to American history. So we weren't just slaves, even though we were treated like slaves. You got to understand the South benefited tremendously. The South benefited tremendously off of the backs of slaves. I mean, we went through this town, and as you see in some of these photos, these buildings were still intact, and they was explained. The tour guide was explaining to us how um how they were built, and they were built basically on the back of slaves. The buildings was immaculate, the brick and the pillars, and it was like very like wonderful to look at. I'm like, wow, it was whoever did this was very skilled. So we were very skilled workers, and we were not ignorant people. We were hardworking people. It's just that we never got our just due. So I want and being in Mississippi, Mississippi was one of the hardest states during the time of the Civil War. I mean, they was hard on their slaves. They put them through it. I mean, not to neglect all the other states, but Mississippi was very hard on black people. Matter of fact, the story we're going to talk about tonight, the Parchman Ordeal, this happened back in the 60s. So this wasn't even 100 years ago that this happened. This happened right in the 60s, where they took black the black population, the white came in, and we're going to get into all that. I want to do the story justice. I want to do the story right. And so, like I said, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to do that in the comment section. So, the Parchment Ordeal. Okay, so what is the Parchment Ordeal? And hold on, let me change this here because I want y'all to get an idea. Okay, so behind me, check out behind me. This was a um here. I don't know if you can see it good. This was a monument to those people that was I really don't want the screen to be like that. I kind of wanted it to. It's not filling out correctly, but that's okay. This is a monument to those people who went through that ordeal. And if you go to Google and type in Parchment Ordeal, this happened in October of 1965. In October of 1965, there was nearly 800 young people attempted to march from their churches in Natchez, Mississippi, to protest segregation. Because you remember during this time, there was, the segregation was blacks separated from the whites. All right. And there was discrimination and mistreatment by white leaders. and elements of the Ku Klux Klan. Now, you got to understand who the Ku Klux Klan. For those of you who do not know who the Ku Klux Klansmen were, these were men who went around and terrorized black people. They were a terrorist group, and there's still some remnants of them even to this day. But during this time, the Ku Klux Klan got infiltrated, came in and influenced some of the policemen in that area because they were protesting because they wanted equal pay and equal rights. They wanted equality. And of course, they was not with that. They say we want segregation. We don't want equality. So they came in, they set them up while they were coming in march, and they came and snatched them up at the auditorium. And they're actually behind this monument stands the auditorium where they took them and rounded up all 800 people. They rounded them up, women, men, and women and children, rounded them up, put them on a bus, took them out to the prison, and while on the way to prison, gave them some Kool-Aid, mixed with laxatives. So they drank it, and you can only imagine, stuffed them in a cell, but packed them all in a cell with laxative with only one toilet. So you can imagine I was told they stripped them down, took their clothes off them, made them embarrassed them. So what they're boo-booing all over the place. There was urine, there was feces. It was terrible. And they had to endure that. That's why it was an ordeal for them. People don't understand what the black people went through back in the day. Not only did they go through hanging, but they went through embarrassment. And this is, and like I said, this is not to bring about this is not to bring about racism or prejudice. Once again, this is part of American history. This is U.S. history, United States history. This is part of our history. It happened right here in the United States of America in Natchez, Mississippi. So and see, this is the type of stuff that we don't really talk about or hear about or don't care to know about. And I want to challenge you, rappers and entertainers out there. Those that want to rap about nonsense. You need to take some time and study your history and understand what black people went through. They didn't go through all of that ordeal just for you to still keep calling each other us niggers and shooting and killing each other. We got to do better. We have to do better. All this, you want to steal, you want to rob, you want to kill. It's still going on today. And I understand that we were put at a disadvantage by the white man. I get that. But we got to start helping each other. And we got to start helping first help ourselves and then help each other. We got to support each other. See, back then, you know why some of the other races are passing us up? It's because they work together. We don't work together. Look at that. But now I want you to take a look look at that right there. What it says: proud to take a stand. When back in this during the civil rights, black people worked together. They worked together. That's why they got a lot done. They got a lot accomplished. But then because and I can blame the government, the U.S. government. Part of that was the drugs. They infiltrated the black community with drugs and prostitution and guns and violence and hip hop music. And that's documented. They will go, there's documentation where the government went to some of these rappers and told them to rap about going to jail, selling drugs, prostitution. Why? Because one, if I'm rapping about selling drugs and about crime, that and these prisons are private and privatized. That means they're owned by private organizations or private people. So that means these people can benefit off of people going to jail, going to prison. They get paid for that. So yes, we're looking for any rappers out here, entertainers that's going to endorse crime in your community. And not only so look, they're killing two birds with one stone. Not only are they destroying us as a people, they're getting paid for it. And for those of you who rap about it, y'all are part of the process. Y'all are part of the problem. Y'all are a part of the problem. I know y'all. I know I'm not gonna get a lot of hits and likes, because we like to jam and we like to party and all that stuff. But I got to keep it 100. We got to stop destroying ourselves. These people actually died and got killed. You go through all these little small towns in the South, in Alabama, Selma, Alabama, and Montgomery, and you go through Mississippi, Natchez, and some other cities, even New Orleans, Atlanta, all throughout the South, Charleston, South Carolina. Some untold stories. You ask some of these people what they had to deal with, the ancestry of terror and fear, the things that they had to go through in the South. See, me coming from the North, I come from the North. We really didn't have to deal with racism too much, up in the North, because we had people in the North, the abolitionists and some of the Northerners who were against that. you know and this is why you had different cities in the North called when you had the Underground Railroad. Cincinnati was one, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh was one. These were some of the stops along the Underground Railroad, and where people could come and escape from the terrors of slavery. All right. But in the south, that's why it's a different. When I moved down to the South, it was a different culture. It was a culture shock, and I didn't really understood, but I understood some of the ways of the Southerners, and how things were, and why it was a different mentality. Because the thing is that when you have been terrorized, preferably by KKK and police officers and different people, different organizations who clearly hate you for no reason, without a cause, it's scary. And you tend to live a feared life, a life, even though you're free, there's still that slave mentality, is that bondage. And the thing is, it's not just in the southern, when I'm not just talking about the South, but even in some of the North, there's still that slave mentality, because we're not working together, we're not coming together. And this is why you got to know the truth. And this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to teach about the truth. I'm here to explain to you and give you some raw truth of what went on in the South. This is why I'm doing this. And I need y'all to look at this, study some of this stuff. This is why I'm not just doing this just in vain, or doing this for likes or comments. Yes, I would like you to like and comment, but I want to teach you something. I want you to learn. Take a look behind me, that statue behind me. And this is a proud to take a stand, the Parchman Ordeal. And then on the back of that monument are the names of all the people who had went through this situation. Can you imagine the humiliation, the degradation? Can you imagine the depression, the frustration, having to be pulled out of your home, pulled out of your church, and the fear of your life? There was a child as young as 14 years old, and he's still alive in that community. And he told the people who gave us the tour, explain how he went through it. He was four. Can you imagine at 14 years old going through that, going to prison at 14 years old, and giving Kool-Aid as a laxative, and you sit there you know you got excrement all over your body. You can't control it, and you're in there with other people. That's horrible. That's horrible. And this is why we need to understand. We need to know what's going on. And this is not to make listen. This is not to make anybody feel bad, but this is about U.S. history. We're talking about patriotism, being proud to be an American. Okay, well, yes, that's good and everything, but understand how America was built up. Understand how America was established. And this is why some of the black people in this country are still upset, because honestly, and I'm going to say this, there needs to be recompense. There needs to be reparations. We need to be restored. You got free labor. Free labor. That's like you hiring somebody and working them 12 hours a day and not paying them one dime. And you know, and you get rich, super rich. Where they do that at? Tell me where they do that at. Right here in America. That's where they do that. That's where they've been doing it at. And so now we're here. There's some of the other stories about Natchez that I was told. Um, how actually Natchez was established. Of course, the native Indians. You got to put the native Indians were here before anybody. And here's a quick story that the tourist told me. So, when the English people got here to establish, when they came into Natchez, Mississippi, the Indians obviously were already there. They've been here. Um, there was, I think it was the French and the Indians. Got together and they started building they brought the slaves from West Africa. So what they did was they brought I think it was the French. The French bought the slaves from West Africa, brought them over to build up that that city. And at first the Indians was working with them. But the way I believe it is that after they start seeing the way they was treating, you know, the slaves, and then you know how our white brethren can be once they get what they want, you know, we don't need you no more. So that was the situation with the Indians, and the Indians was like, nah, we're not having that. So what they did is they revolted, and the Indians start scalping. And that's what the tour guide told me. They said they start scalping the Frenchmen, and they freed those African American slaves. They freed those, not African American, but freed those slaves from West Africa. They freed them. And that's how, and so that's why you see some of our culture, some of the black culture mixed in with the native culture, because actually they took them in. And I think it's the Choctaw and the Blackfoot Indians took the slaves in, freed them, and they became one people. So that's part of our history. So yeah, some of us have native ancestry in the black community. And this is our history, y'all. And this is why we need to know this. So, you know, go to these little towns. Every time you go to these little small towns, take the time, and they got plaques. They got plaques, you know, and I love, you know, I'm a historian. I love history. Take the time to look at the plaques, especially in Savannah. If you go down to Savannah, take time to look at the plaques and read, because your history is staring you right in the face. Your history is looking right at you, and this is why you would understand, why is my community the way it is? Why is everything? Why is my community like this? It's because you got to look at the history. And it's kind of funny because that city government or county government or state government who knows how that came about will give you the answer to your question. You got to go to the history. History is the source of all things. So if I go back to the source and I go back to their history and I read the history of a community, then I understand how I got here in the first place. But what I love about it is that even though it is what it is now, you can rewrite history, you can change history, but first you must learn it to change it so that you don't repeat it. And so this is why that monument is so important. I purposely put it on because I wanted you to look at it. Look at the people behind me. Look at our people. Look at them in that photo. Look at our people and what they had to deal with, and what they had to endure, the pain, the agony, the fear, every night worrying about. Can you imagine you're sitting in you're in your house at night and you got to worry about someone bombing your house? Martin Luther King had to deal with that. Malcolm X had to deal with that. Or just people in these southern cities. Think about, we didn't have Instagram back then. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have social media. So think about many untold stories, the blood that was shed, innocent lives being taken, and nobody knows about it. Nobody knows about it and ever will know about it except for God. God knows. And this is why a recompense must come, restoration must come, and reparations must come for our people, because our people have been done an injustice. And I'm compelled to talk about this because I want y'all to learn. I want my people to learn. It's time for us to know who we are, understand where we come from, change the narrative, change our history. It's time for us to stop acting like slaves and start acting like free people. But in order for us to be truly free, we got to know our history so that we won't repeat it. All right, I'm going to take this time for a quick break. I want you to uh, check out some videos, some photos that I took. This is me and my wife. We're here in Natchez, and I'll be right back. All right. So those are some of the pictures that I've taken. Once again, shout out to my wife for being with me on that journey. So we certainly enjoyed ourselves. It was certainly it's a nice, quiet town. A lot of nice views. We had some good food and good times, and met some good friends along the way. Um, some of those pictures that you've seen, I hope you had a chance to pay attention. They actually have a, African American museum there. Actually, they also have a archive museum down there as well. And here's a quick story. There was a prince that was captured for slavery from West Africa. His name was Prince Ibrahim, and he was a prince, but they didn't know it, and he didn't speak. Of course, he didn't speak the English language, and they didn't know he was a prince. But eventually, he fought for his freedom. He got free. He freed his family. It took him a long time, but he he was. They said he was an intelligent man. He was a genius, and was able to learn the language and free himself. And see, one thing about I love about that story is that um, you can't deny royalty. You can't deny royalty. God made us royal priesthood, a holy nation. You can slow us down, but you can't stop us. We are a resilient people. We are a powerful people, a royal people. And I'm not saying this to look down on anybody else, but we have something that we can be proud of. We have patriotism and bombarded. We got matter of fact, we got Independence Day for the United States of America coming up, and they talk about revolution and how they fought the British and won their independence, and and this is why they celebrate it. But can we honestly celebrate it? No, we can't, because it wasn't independence for us. And even when we got independence in Juneteenth, which we originally got our independence from President Abraham Lincoln in January of 1863, but we didn't get released from officially until 1865. That was when the last slaves was released. And even after that, we still weren't free because we dealt with racism and terrorism. Yes, terrorism from the KKK, from policemen. So we still got it going on to this day. And I don't mean to repeat, but I'm reiterating the fact that we have freedom come up. We talk about freedom, and this is what we're dealing with. Another quick fun fact for you, history note for you, was I had a picture of a house. Now I don't know if y'all knew this, and they call them colored people, and it's funny because the tourists use colored. There were free colored men, free black men back then. I'm gonna say black because I don't want to offend anybody. But there were free black men in Natchez, because remember the native Indians had freed some of them. So one of the houses, they had houses there, and some of them actually had plantations. One of them being William Johnson, the William Johnson's house, whose house is still standing today, and some of his descendants are in that very city. Oh, and Prince Ibrahim's descendants is still in that city in Natchez as well. But some of the black men had slaves. Some free black men had black slaves, if you can believe that. And I did not know that, but it was the way of the world back then. That's the way it was. And I would hope, probably didn't, but I would hope that our people had treated them right, but they probably didn't, because we have some. I don't know if I should say this. We have some black folks who want to fit in with, what the white brothers so much that they're willing to turn their back on their own people and sell their people up the river, if you will. And that's a reality. And see, you got to be real to yourself and real to your people. I'm not a prejudiced person. I always say this. I'm not prejudiced, but I'm about exposing the truth, realness. I love there and the tour, the people who gave us the tour, very nice people, and one of them happened to be white. They were white, and one was Ecuadorian. She was from South America. Okay, but they were white skinned people, and they were very kind to us. Matter of fact, the first picture that you seen on that photo was the house that they let stay in this house. It was a very beautiful house, very nice. Gave us the whole house and said, "Hey, the house is yours for the weekend." You know, food and fed us and everything. So no, I'm not saying all white folks are bad. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to get at, what I'm trying to help you understand, black people, is that until we come together as a people and heal ourselves, we won't be able to gain that respect. And we're always going to fall behind. We're always going to be last. And another thing, I want to say this too. I want to say this too, because I'm so tired of this. Black people, when it comes to customer service, and I'm talking about us. I ain't talking about nobody else. I'm talking about us. When it comes to customer service and servitude, we used to be so good at that, but we just lost it. We lost it. We don't like to serve. But remember what Jesus said. Jesus said, the greatest among you must be able to serve. If you can't serve people, even in the smallest capacity, how you going to be able to lead a business? Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants their own business. Everybody wants their own thing. Everybody wants to lead, but nobody wants to follow. Because you got to get people to work for you. So how you expect people to follow you and work for you when you can't even work for somebody else? Don't work like that. Help build another man's vision. Help build another man's dream. Build another man, whatever it might be, a business, ministry. Build somebody else. See, this is the secret, y'all. This is the secret on how to build a better community, a secret on how to build a better society. It's supporting one another's visions. You ain't got to be the head all the time. You ain't got to be the main one all the time. It ain't always got to be about you. It's about the embetterment and the empowerment of the community as us as a whole. If me helping you is going to help us, then let's do that. My name ain't got to be called. Nobody got to know my name all the time. I ain't got to be the number one stunner. Everybody ain't got to know my name. But we come up together. We all shine. You shine. I shine. Our children, our generation shines. That's how we're going to overcome racism and prejudice. That's how we're going to overcome slavery. But as long as they know how to divide and conquer, and that's just what they're doing to us, because they know, and they give you a little trinket, they give you a little gold, they give you a little money, and you forget all about your people. Can't do that, y'all. Can't forget about where you come from. Can't forget about your history. Okay? Can't do that. Because if you do that, then you're lost. And I don't want y'all to be lost. So that's why I'm doing this podcast. To find us. We need to be found. We're lost as a people. And I want y'all to come back. Come back home. Come on back. Come on back. Come on back to your society. Come on back to originality. Come on back to your original purpose. God made you to be royalty. Remember the story about Prince Abraham I just told you. He was sold into slavery, but won his freedom. It almost sounds similar to Joseph. Joseph in the Bible was sold into slavery by his own brothers. By his own, remember, I just got finished talking about building up our own people. He got sold into slavery by his own brothers. But look, watch how the tables turn. If you ever read the story of Joseph in the Bible, is that after Joseph was sold into slavery, he went into Egypt, and then he helped. He was sold into Potiphar's house, and they said Potiphar's house was thriving. Joseph had to touch anything. Joseph put his hand to it, flourished. But the problem was that Potiphar's wife had an eye for Joseph. But Joseph, being taught right and understood, you don't sleep with another man's wife. You don't sleep with another man's wife. You don't sleep with another man's wife. Okay? You don't do that. That's for somebody out there. You don't sleep with another man's wife. So when Potiphar's wife tried to get Joseph, Joseph ran. But she ripped away a part of his robe, tore off his robe, tried to tear off his clothes. And Joseph got falsely accused of rape. Falsely accused of rape because he didn't want to sleep with another man's wife. She got mad and she lied on him. So Joseph got locked up in the prison. And that's for some of you brothers out there. Not every man in prison is guilty. There's some men that are in prison that got falsely accused simply because of prejudice. And some women out there who falsely accuse them of rape. It happens. It happens. And it's messed up. And I want to tell you, some of you women out there, if you're doing that, shame on you. If you're out there, you can't have a relationship with this man and you giving this man hell and you falsely accusing him of stuff, shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Or won't let that man see his kids because you're mad at him. Shame on you. You don't do that. Don't do that. I don't care if y'all ain't getting along. Let that man see. If that man want to be a part of his children's life, let that man be a part of his children's life. That's why some of these, they grow up funny now. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Because they ain't have a father in their life. Because you was bitter. And that Negro ain't about nothing. He ain't about nothing. He ain't about nothing. Don't talk about that man. Don't talk about that child's father in front of him. Let that be your own personal battle, but don't embitter your child. But anyway, I got off a little bit. Yeah, he got sold into slavery, then was falsely accused, got put in prison. But one thing about Joseph is that he was able to interpret dreams. He was a dreamer. So two of the prisoners went to him and said, "Hey, could you interpret these dreams for us?" And they interpreted the dreams. And Joseph said, "Hey, when you get out of prison, don't forget about me." So one of them got their jobs restored back to him because it was like a setup. So he was his position got restored back in the Pharaoh's court, and then they forgot about him. But one day Pharaoh had a dream, and nobody could interpret it. And then the guy who was in prison, used to be in prison with Joseph, reminded Pharaoh, "Oh, Pharaoh, I know this guy who can interpret dreams. He networked." So then Pharaoh was like, "Well, bring him up." So Joseph interpreted the dream perfectly to the T. And Pharaoh was so impressed with uh, his gift. And get this, even while Joseph was in prison, the people ate good. They said the person has never looked so healthy. But Joseph's gift made room for him to stand in front of Pharaoh. And he interpreted Pharaoh's dream perfectly. And Pharaoh was so impressed that Pharaoh set him up as second in command, as governor of Egypt. He made him the governor of Egypt. And watch how the tables have turned. That while the famine was going on, because that was what part of the dream was, there were 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. That's what the dream was about. And go to Genesis and read. I'm not going to give you all the details. Go to Genesis and read your Bible. But the famine was so severe that Joseph's brothers had to come to Egypt to get food. But since Joseph's intelligence, he stored up enough food to get everybody through the famine. He was able to share food with all the world because they were prepared. But Joseph's brothers had to come to Egypt to get food. And at first, remember when they sold Joseph into slavery, Joseph was only 13 years old. He was a young man, but he was older now. His brothers didn't recognize him at first, but Joseph ended up helping them. And see, that's why you got to watch who you treat wrong, because that person that you treated wrong might be the same person that you need later on in your life. You got to be careful. And Joseph, being the good person that he is, helped his brothers out. And not only did he help his brothers out, told them, "Come on, I can set y'all up." He set them up with a house. He set them up with food, and they ain't have to worry about nothing for the rest of their life. But look how God worked that out. Yes, Joseph had to go through something, but he said, what you meant for evil, God meant it for my good. And I say all this to say this: even the black people, how we came into slavery, we made this country rich. But it's our time now. They said, "Go back to Africa. Go back to." Okay, well, look. If you want me to go back to Africa, I'll go back to Africa. But before I leave here, I'm going to get paid. Because the same way that the Hebrews, and we are the Hebrews, by the way, the same Hebrews in the Bible that had to go through Egypt, because later on they said there was a Pharaoh that came that forgot about Joseph. He said these Hebrews are becoming too there's too many of them. We got to start getting rid of them. They start killing the firstborns and everything like that. So they was crying, say, "Lord, get us out of here, because we ain't got favor no more." See that, and that's another thing. Don't wear out your welcome. Sometimes you stay too long at a place, people don't like you no more. You're good when they're using you, but when they done using you, take that as a hint. All right. Well, that's all I got for you today. I hope that you enjoyed the show. I hope that you learned something. Once again, I want you to tune in, and I'm going to start doing regular shows. I'm not going to do it like a stage show, but this is a podcast, and so I want y'all to get used to me talking to y'all. Like we family, right? We a nation, one nation of people. But if you're interested in supporting One Nation, I got information for you down at the bottom of the screen there. And also you can purchase here's merchandise for sale, shirts. Um, Now when you send your money in, make sure you give me your name, your number, the size of the shirt that you want, shipping, and the address, so I know where to ship your shirt to. Okay, I need all that information. So once again, make sure that you let me know. You can email me at one nation uh, ent 21 at gmail.com. You can call me at 404-889-6302. Also, you can also just comment, text me on the show on Facebook itself or YouTube. Please comment. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to it. That's One Nation Elise for the YouTube. Okay, for the YouTube channel. I need your support. This is One Nation, and this is your host, Christian Norfleet. And before I sign off, want you to watch this, and we'll be back out to close it out. All right, y'all. Well, we reached reached the end of another prosperous and blessed show. I thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends. I hope you learned something about the Parchman Ordeal. Take the time to look it up. Take the time to look up the history of Natchez, Mississippi, and like I said, I got some of the photos on here, like behind me. This is a picture of the Mississippi River. A lot of history, so I'm glad I went. So once again, I'm glad that you tuned in tonight. For those of you that did, and until next time, love to live, live to love. You be blessed, and we'll see you again soon. Peace.